Hi, this is Esther Lynn, photographer for MMAfighting.com, and I would like to share some of my favorite images from UFC 195, Lawler vs. Condit. UFC 195 Fight Week began with Carlos Condit flying into the open workouts. Fans were lined up around the mats to see the dynamic striker, who fed off their energy and came ready to put on a show. Condit flashed a swift series of elbows, to which his striking coach Brandon Gibson asked if Condit wanted to reveal this part of his arsenal, and the challenger smiled back at Gibson as if to say, "Let's give them elbows," and fired off more in rapid succession. Here in front of the sportsbook, the welterweight champ was next. Robbie Lawler gave a brief, intense workout session, stopping for photographs as he made his way over to the media scrum. It was early in the week, but the fans were excited to see the two men for whom a wild war was imminent. It's another fight week and another media day, so more portraits. Carlos Condit was in a light mood, as the entire room was in a relaxed state. This media day didn't have the frenzy of the triple fight week earlier in the month, and it made for a nice atmosphere to steal time for good portraits. The warmth carried through to the face-offs. Perhaps everyone was in a celebratory mood for New Year's Eve, as the heavyweights had a friendly moment. Even when Lawler and Condit faced off, there was a smoldering tension that didn't emanate from brutish anger, but a thrilling anticipation of the violent competition that awaited them on Saturday night. It's now weigh-in day. Michael Chiesa and Rose Namajunas host the Q&A, with Namajunas fully embodying an action film heroine, ready to save the world. As the main event took the scale, the champ Lawler made sure to remind the audience that this was his place, here atop the mountain as the welterweight champion. What a way to begin the year with this fight, a matchup with grandly savage promise. After they faced off, both turned toward the gathered masses, voices raised in boisterous prayer to the deities that govern such wars. Fight day. Sheldon Westcott starts the night off with a quick finish, and it sounds like he brought a chunk of Alberta with him to Las Vegas to celebrate. In a harbinger of what kind of night we would come to witness is the postponed bout between Joseph Duffy and Dustin Poirier. As the first round came to a close, Poirier pushed gobs of sticky blood out of his nose and bit down on his mouth guard, and he elbowed his way to a win. Even as he was battered against the cage, Duffy grinned maniacally, enjoying every second of the spout. Backstage in the media room, victorious fighters made their rounds through interview scrums. And out in the arena, Michael McDonald slipped out of an arm triangle, and the former Sengoku featherweight champ Kanehara found his back taken within seconds, tapping to that rear naked. Then, as quickly as it began, Miocic and Arlovski ended, and Stipe seized his opportunity to proclaim his place as the next contender for the heavyweight title. The arena went dark. Rage Against the Machine came on, so the fans knew that Carlos Condit was making his way to the octagon. He ascended those stairs, wolf howling up the side of the mountain. Then the champ danced his way to the cage. Even with the cheers, you could hear Robbie Lawler singing along to "Hold On, I'm Coming." The brass bellowing through the Grand Garden Arena, bugles leading the gladiator to battle. They stood across from each other. From the concourse, I surveyed the arena. Though there were 10,000 people here, it felt smaller, more intimate, just by the nature of the fight at hand. This was a fight for the pugilistic devotee, for the die-hard disciple to the brutal arts. And when it began, the challenger gained an early advantage with an uppercut variant that sent the champ face first into the canvas. I found myself dialed into the action, so fascinated by the match of skill. Where the first round clearly went to the challenger, the second ebbed back towards the champ as Lawler briefly dropped Condit, but quickly thought better of staying in the New Mexican's crafty guard. They were in this perfect dance. A surreal, violent harmony where Condit seemed to edge the champ with his game plan, smartly stacking combinations that dazzle. The crowd had began the fight chanting, "Robbie, Robbie," but by the end of the fourth, they were cheering for Condit. But then, in the fifth, Robbie Lawler calls up the pain of every decision loss he's ever suffered and comes out blazing. Ignoring the blood covering his face and the knees and kicks digging into his body, walking forward into fire. A revenant unwilling to accept fate dealt by his competition. Both fighters give every last shred of their spirit, fighting until that horn sounds and frees them from their violent task. Now, they are just two exhausted men who have given their all, collapsed along the cage beside each other in an exasperated truce. Lawler keeps finding himself in these consuming battles. He raises Condit's arms with his. The crowd is enraptured. It felt like this is the fight of the year. And it's January 2nd. I was in awe. It is one of the most beautiful fights I have ever seen. When the decision was read, the crowd mumbled in confusion. Most felt that it had landed with the challenger, which is a rare sentiment for the masses in a championship bout that goes the distance. Lawler looked too drained to celebrate. He turned to Condit and stared at his foe with hard respect. A look that only those two could give each other. Only these two men knew what they'd pushed through to still be standing here at the end. When Joe Rogan interviewed Carlos Condit, the crowd stood in ovation. Condit raised his fist, basked in that affection. He had no belt around his waist, but the people here were so moved by his performance, cheered to show their gratitude. But dissent aside, Robbie Lawler remains the UFC welterweight champion, and there's no disagreement. Bell to bell, Lawler is easily the fiercest, most entertaining fighter to grace the octagon. Somehow, every fight he's in becomes this incredible, unforgettable odyssey. At the post-press conference, Lawler opines on his great opponents and their unwillingness to stay down against the storm of his ruthless aggression. Condit comes in and congratulates the champ, is honest about his feelings that he'd felt he'd done enough to win, but can't hold it against himself or anyone for putting everything out there. Some might say there were no losers in this fight, but they would be wrong. There is very literally only one winner and only one loser. They cannot both be the victor. They cannot both claim the crown. Their records will not show how close this fight was. In this epilogue, Lawler asserts that he had put everything on the line. Condit put everything on the line. That fight was everything he had left in him. And the entire time he's speaking, the vanquished Carlos Condit watches Lawler, nodding, agreeing. Condit is unsure of his future, but knows this was a masterful fight, regardless of result. It was pure beauty. The night comes to a close. Ruthless Robbie Lawler smiles through his bruised face. The relentless champion, worthy of the highest praise for a prizefighter because he is the stuff of legend. Where you'll find it hard to believe such a gritty fighter even exists. And across from him, a most worthy adversary, another man of unreal courage and fortitude. Locked forever together in the story of this grand contest. This is Esther Lynn for MMAfighting.com. Thank you for watching.